Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Elena. I was going to talk about our February reads. We are going to talk about what I read in February. But I came and I sat down, I tried to find a room with good lighting, and it happens to be what should be, hopefully, the office is what we're dubbing it for now. But I came in, and as you can kind of see, it's so messy, and it just sent my brain into kind of overwhelm. So I am going to try... The wind is kicking up. I don't know if the camera picked that up, but it's a super windy day. We're kind of in our faux spring. So it's where it's just hit March and we get some sun, but then, like I said, the wind's picking up and there's clouds coming in and out. So we're getting a taste of spring, but it's not quite here yet. We're gonna put shelves together. Put shelves together though, and I'm going off on a tangent. We're gonna put shelves together and we're gonna talk about the books I read in February. Now, the shelves that I have are these metal things. They're not technically bookshelves, but they are shelves that I have, and I haven't quite figured out. I thought I would use them here in the office. We do have actual bookshelves, but they're downstairs. I didn't want to bring them upstairs. I don't know, probably from renting like so much. I'm constantly thinking about when we move again, that's just going to be so much to bring back down. Not that there isn't plenty of furniture up here as it is, but I don't know. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about when you have this like permanently in my head where I like almost don't want to put up stuff, and I don't want to, like, I'm hesitant because moving just sucks so bad. I think it kind of eases away the longer that you stay in a place, but you didn't come to hear all this either. Let's talk about what we read in February. In February, I read 11 books. February was, we were in the middle of kind of, let me get over here. Okay, we're gonna try to make work. February, we read 11 books. The first book that I read was Miracles at Promised Lodge. This was a Amish romance. Amish romance is kind of my go-to comfort reads. I know that the kind that I am reading is safe, and although they can deal with some pretty serious things, mostly they're like Hallmark movies in a book where I know there's not going to be any spice. I know that it's going to be mostly a clean read. Not mostly, it will be a clean read. So it's going to be a clean read, and it's going to be just kind of safe, I guess is the word I'm looking for. There's typically going to be a happily ever after, and it's just going to end nicely, right? So I run to that when I really need an escape and I don't want to be overwhelmed, something lighthearted in that world. So I was in the midst of feeling heaviness, winter, just stuff. So I read the 8th book in the beginning of February is when I finished it. I have my laptop here where it has the Storygraph, my stats on it. So this one, Miracles at Promised Lodge, this is the last one, I believe, in the series, Promised Lodge series. If you like this kind of book, so you want to kind of dive in, this is a sweet town that is founded by 3 sisters, 3 Amish sisters. And this is not the norm for the Amish lifestyle, for the sisters to step out on their own and kind of create their own town, but that's exactly what they're doing. They have a pastor that has gone, or not, they don't call it a pastor, I think they call it their elder, that is going with them, trying to make space to make this shelf, and there's just, there's stuff everywhere. But they are going to, which is the top and which is the bottom of these. So in moving so much, what I'm wondering about is these shelves have these little like foot things on the end, but 2 of them are missing them. So I think what I'm going to do for now is just take this piece off. When you move a lot, sometimes pieces of furniture, like that'll happen eventually, right? This particular bookshelf, or wire shelves that we've had, I think we've had, oh my gosh, over 10 years. So makes sense that there are pieces missing. Let's talk about Promised Lodge again. This is all over the place. Sorry, that's kind of how my brain works. So the 3 Amish sisters go and they create this town, and then we kind of just follow people who come to the town and what they imagine for the town. They are not the typical, like I said, Amish women. And it is not the typical Amish town because they kind of have a little bit more independence. They, the women have a little bit more say-so in things, and they talk about it. Where in traditional, very conservative Amish towns, that's not always the case. So in this one, we actually are learning about one of the kind of troublemakers in the first couple series of the books. I don't want to give too much away, but this is the last one in there, and it was a sweet read. It was nice to see a character come full circle in this story. Like I said, he is kind of seen as a troublemaker at the beginning of the series, and in this book he gets his own story, and we get to learn a little bit more about him, and then we get to see if he has kind of a redemptive arc. Next up was another Amish read, A Perfect Amish Romance, Volume 1. This is the Berlin Bookmobile series, and this is by Shelley, Shepard Gray. I don't think I said what the other, Promised Lodge is by Charlotte Hubbard. So A Perfect Amish Romance, I was continuing on with my Amish reads, looking for a comfort read. This one is another series. Clearly it starts number 1. I think there are 3 books in this, and this one has Amish highlighted in it, but it also is told in part from the perspective of the Bookmobile driver. So the Bookmobile driver is not Amish. She drives the Bookmobile and works for the public library system, but she helps a lot in the Amish community, and so in this case she is helping a young Amish boy who may want to take his GED, which is not the norm in the Amish community, and kind of see if we get a romance out of that too. And so we're kind of introducing characters in here, but it doesn't take a lot of world building even though it is the first book in the series. There's a whole story there, and you could read it as a standalone and continue on with the series. I did continue on with the series, but I'm not sure if I finished it all in February. Then I finished up Sonoma Rose, and this is by Jennifer Chiaverini. I think I said that wrong, but if you were on my last channel, I read the Elm Creek Quilt series books, and this is number 19 in that series. As you can see, I really like series books. Once we get into a good series, I want to stay in that world for a while. Reading standalones, I do read them, but I like a good series. So this continues on in Sonoma Rose in the Elm Creek Quilt series, and it follows characters that were introduced. Trying to figure out a way to explain it. I'm probably failing miserably. Elm Creek Quilt kind of jumps around on a timeline. It's not a linear timeline, and so this follows someone in the past and goes back and tells more of her story. It is set in the Prohibition time, and it talks about Rosa Barclay. She lives in Southern California on a rye farm with her volatile husband John, who has lately found another source of income outside of the federal purview. Mother to 8 children, Rosa mourns the loss of 4 who succumbed to the mysterious wasting disease that is now afflicting young Anna and Miguel. 2 daughters born of another father are in perfect health. It's one of those things where everybody knows and suspects, but nobody quite knows that they're of another father. And when an act of violence shatters Rosa's resolve to maintain her increasingly dangerous existence, she flees with the children and her precious heirloom quilts to the mesa where she last saw her beloved mother alive. So we follow Rosa and what happens with her and the children. And it is part of the Elm Creek Quilt series, but quilts are kind of in the background, the very, very background of this. It's not a prime role in this particular book. But it was a good story. If you like to hear stories about Prohibition era, and this also has to do with the very beginning of celiac disease and how they didn't quite fully understand it at this time. There's a lot of sadness that happens in here. I would definitely read up on the trigger warnings on this, though, because there is a lot of other stuff in there. Let me get at least one of these going, because that's for now we're just kind of leaning on it, not getting anything done. Next up, I read What's Eating Jackie O by Patricia Park. This was a fun, like, one-off book. I think I got this one from the library, just off the shelf, just looking around. This was a cute story. It follows a young lady who dreams of being a chef. She's helping out in her grandparents' restaurant right now, and her family, they want her to do something a little more, I guess, what they would deem professional. So lawyer, doctor, that kind of thing. And so she talks about her struggles with that, and kind of being stereotyped in this cooking show that she goes on, and her experience with that. So it was a cute, fun read, and it also gave a little bit of insights into things. So it was fun to read. Also made me hungry because, we're talking about food in the book. Then I read Tangled Up in You. This is meant to be number 4. All of those books, though, can be read. You don't have to read them in order, and you don't have to, you don't have to read all of them. You can just read them out of order or one at a time, however which way. But this is by Christina Lauren. I had the longest line for the digital read on this. Like, I would still be several months waiting for this in my library, so I was very pleased to see it on the shelf. This is meant to be a Rapunzel retelling, and it was cute, but I had to go back and look at the blurb to kind of remember everything about it. So I don't know. I like retellings. This follows Wren, and she is like raised in a homestead type situation, but they keep to her themselves. It's a very small town. And then later in the book, we kind of find out why. So it was kind of cute in that aspect of like them trying to have the Mother Gothel type figure and figuring out who that would be and what happens. And then, the Flynn McRider or Flynn Rider. I don't think there's a Mick in his name. Anyways, you know what I mean. So cute kind of retelling. But I hate to say it wasn't all that memorable, but it was a nice retelling. Next up, I read The Pirate Bride. This is, I guess, number 2 in the Daughters of the Mayflower. I don't guess. It is. That's what it says. By Kathleen Y'Barbo. I didn't read the first one. I just read this one because one of the prompts that I needed was to read a story about or that had pirates in it. One shell down. 2 more to go. It's such a tiny space. I don't know why I thought this was, I don't know. We got to start making sense somewhere though, right? Okay. So back to The Pirate Bride. I just finished it because it had to do, was reading it for the challenge. The storyline follows this young girl who is kind of slightly enamored with not the captain, but captain, but she thinks he's a pirate. He likes to call himself something else. There's a considerable age gap that I guess as they get older, it doesn't really matter, but because they introduce them as child and full adult, it kind of gave me the ick. So I don't think I'll continue on with this series, but I finished it. I didn't even rate it. I left it as read for the challenge. Then next I read Making Waves. This is also the beginning of another series that I don't think I will finish. This is by Lorna Seilstad. I have no rhyme or reason for the placement of where I'm putting the shells for now. I may come to regret this decision, but for now I'm just like, let's get something done. Making Waves is a historical romance, and it takes place at a lake where these people used to go, really well-off people used to go camping. And the author in the back writes a note that this really happened because it kind of seems weird that these very wealthy people would go and like camp in tents with full-on furniture, but they do. This story has a little bit of mystery in it. And all in all, it was a cute historical romance. There isn't too much I would say about it that stood out to me. I finished it because it was a digital read. I had put it on another challenge for myself. It follows, I think I rated it 3.5 stars. It follows a young lady, and she is being asked to be married to someone to help save her family's riches. And we find out what happened to her family's riches and whether or not she marries for her heart or if she marries for money. Then I read An Amish Surprise. This was number 2 in the Berlin Bookmobile series. I went back to the series because it was sweet, cozy reads. And I think at this point, I was just ready for something that I was like a palate cleanser. I knew I was going to like it. In this one, we follow another couple and we get a little bit more into the life of the Bookmobile driver. Cute read, 4 stars. Then I read Love You a Latke. Latke? I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. This is by Amanda Elliot. And this I rated 3.5 stars. This follows a woman who lives in a very small town. She moves there because of her ex-boyfriend, who also still lives in town, but it's kind of a background character. The town decides to have a holiday festival, but they want to make it a Hanukkah festival without really knowing much about Hanukkah and what it is celebrating. And so they ask her to help. She's kind of thrown off guard in her search to find vendors and things like that. She finds the only other Jewish person in town. And this is where the fake dating trope comes in. She needs a favor, he needs a favor, and we go off. Most of it is set in New York where his parents live. But then we come back to the small town and find out if we actually have the festival. Next up was the Half Stitched Amish Quilting Club. This was another new series. I don't know if I'll go back and finish this series up. This is by Wanda E. Brunstetter, and it was a sort of cheesy-ish read. I mean, what you would expect from like, you know, a lower budget, maybe Hallmark movie. It is cute though. It follows a Amish woman who sets out to teach quilting lessons, and she gets this kind of ragtag bunch that sign up for it. Okay, we got the little shelf up. You can see more mess behind it. But since I'm missing 2 of those little feet at the bottom, I feel like being on the carpet, it's going to... I feel like maybe we should have a little rug or something underneath it to kind of keep the carpet protected. And of course, I don't have a little rug or anything like even remnants to put underneath it. So we have 1 of 2 options. We can look for replacement little feet. That's not the right grammar, but you know what I mean. This is not a project to do when your back just started feeling better. So we can look for little replacement feet or a rug, whichever comes first. Stay tuned and find out. Different day, but I had to finish up 1 book, and then the last one I was telling you. We haven't put anything on there. We haven't found the rug. It's actually just the next day. You don't care. The Half Stitch Amish Quilting Club. Like I was saying, it is a cheesy read, but it's cute. It kind of makes the point of not judging by the outside. So we have a ragtag group, like I was saying. We have a single dad who is a widow, and then we also have a couple that sign up as kind of a marriage counseling thing, and then we have a biker type dude, and then a young lady who feels very misunderstood and has kind of maybe the grunge look going for her, and so they're a little standoffish from her. And then we have a pastor's wife, and I think that is all of the main characters. And throughout the course, the quilt course, they become friendlier with each other and their lives intertwine, and we find out some things that I mean, maybe you saw it coming when you're reading the book. When I read it, I was like, oh, okay. So interesting. Like I said, it drives home the point of not judging a book by their cover, but I totally judge books by their cover. But this is like, don't judge people by the outside looks. Then I finished up the month. I kind of was reading this in between. This was an audiobook. So when I have an audiobook, I will try to listen to that when I'm like washing dishes, or if I get to run errands on my own. If I get to run errands with the children, I can't listen to a book. So the one that I started and then I had to put on pause in January, and then I got to finish it up in February, was Help, I'm Drowning, Weathering the Storms of Life with Grace and Hope. This is by Clarkson. This is a nonfiction, and kind of like the title says, I picked it up because we're okay. The kids are doing their chores, and it sounded like something fell, but no one's hurt and nothing's broke. So getting back to weathering the storms of life, winter was tough for me. Probably why, again, like I said, I was reading a lot of Amish reads and just feeling kind of overwhelmed. This book, I really enjoyed the layout of it, and I liked listening to it because it was like having what I imagine an older sister speaking life into you, or, you know, kind of encouraging you. And so Sally Clarkson, it's not narrated by her, but in her book, she describes some trials that she's gone through. And at the end of the book, she gives you scripture to kind of marinate on, and then there is a prayer. So listening to the audiobook and having that prayer kind of read over you was really nice. This one, I didn't rate it. I think it's just going to hit you where you are in life. So if it's something that you feel like you really need, it's going to be a 5-star for you. And if it's something where you're like, I'm in a really good place and I don't really need this, maybe it won't hit you as hard. But I did enjoy this book. And that was all of what I read for February. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I know this is kind of a different wrap-up video, but we got it up. Now to get it set up and get the books on there. Figure out how to do that. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me.